Hey guys, if you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. And if you enjoy what you're watching, hit the like button so we can get this video to 1,000 likes. And if you have any suggestions for this or any future videos, leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to check out our Amazon store with all the equipment from my 2017 home studio tour and any recommendations for any producers out there. Link will be in the description and on dailyheatcheck.com. And while you're there, check out for exclusive downloads and templates. We'll be updating the site with those frequently moving forward. And like us on Facebook. I'll have all the links in the description. Without any further talking, let's get started. So if you're running Logic Pro 9 or X, or maybe even 8, Lord knows, and you're having issues with CPU slowdown or, just not having a good production or productivity you're expecting out of your machine, so this is a few tips that I can help you that will guarantee increase your overall CPU workflow and everything. This is guaranteed. So if you follow this is the stuff that the pros use and the pros teach. So let's follow it carefully. Step 1. Make sure if you're running Logic, you're running it in 64-bit mode. Now, right here, this is the app is the Logic Pro 9. This is currently running in 32-bit mode because there's 32-bit plugins that I still use and want to use. But now Logic Pro X, due to the fact that my computer has 16 gigabytes of RAM, once it's running in 64-bit mode, it could utilize all 64 bits of that RAM because 32 gigs could only max out at probably 4 gigs. No, not a probably, that's a guarantee. It would only see 4 gigs of your memory. So you'll have another 12 gigs of your memory that's not even being used. So just imagine if you had 12 gigs of extra memory on board on your system for plugins, for catching data or anything of that nature, and you're not using it because your program is only in 32-bit mode, you should go and check and make sure of that. That's the first step that I would recommend. So once we see that everything is running and you're utilizing everything in your computer, then we could help and go and move forward. And just as we're on the 32-bit mode, if you're producing and you don't have at least a minimum of 8 gigabytes of RAM, I recommend you look into that for your next upgrade. Now, it's nothing that's going to, stop the show now because these improvements will help you produce, but at least look into getting at least 8 gigs of RAM. I can guarantee you will see the benefits almost immediately if you use a lot of plug-in patches. All right, guys, so the next thing you could do to help, improve your overall workflow in Logic is freezing tracks. Now, this is just a demonstration for the sake of the video, but if you have like a 50-track session, multiple plugins, EQs, everything running, guitar, everything, the best thing I would recommend is to freeze the track. And basically by freezing the track, it takes that track with everything on it, affects everything, plug-in instruments, and just makes like a temporary audio print that you could play back in real time so you could still reference to what you have there. But in the event that you want to go and make any edits or change it, you won't be able to once that track is frozen. But you need to hit the snowflake right here and then press the play bar. And now it'll run through your session searching for audio or anything that needs to be frozen and put into place. Then once you see the green bar taken care of, you're good to go. And now let's try to make an edit on this track. Current track is frozen. Do you want to unfreeze it? And that's the only way you'll be able to edit it. But say if you had all your plugins, Omnisphere, CLA, 2As, everything going, you'll still be able to play it with all of that on there, still to get the effect, whatever you were looking for from those plugins, and not really mess with the integrity of your session without putting all that CPU load on your own computer. So that's pretty cool. So that's the second tip to get that going. All right, guys. So another thing you could do to help improve your overall workflow in Logic and help save CPU is effects routing. I know a lot of us, when we make effects or whatnot, if we want to use, say, I don't know, a reverb for this track, we would typically just go here, go to our audio effects, and just pull out our reverb. Now, the best way to save our overall processing power is to use what they called in the professional workplace audio routing and audio busing and sentence. So you hit X on your keyboard. From X, I already have a track set up, but we're going to do this from scratch. You're going to go create a new auxiliary channel strip. Wherever that may be, it should show up. So we're going to assume that number 4 is the one we just created. All right, so we're going to take our effect that we want on here. we're going to put a delay just so we know when we affect the track that it's going to be heard. And it's on 100% wet, so it's definitely going to go through. Then we're going to assign this its own bus. So we're going to give it to bus 4. Once you have the audio bus set up, you should be good to go as far as inside of Logic, because then all your effects that you could have set up, you just put it on that audio bus, assign it its own bus, then go to your actual track, then turn that bus on, and then you'll be good to go. Another thing that is definitely going to help you as far as with helping improve the overall workflow in Logic is reducing your undo steps. So we're going to go to Logic, we're going to go to Preferences, then General. Then from General, we're going to go to Editing. I'm already here. But if you see in my menu, see I have up to 100 undo steps. And now in most cases, undo is great. Somebody's like, hey, why would you want to take that away? Well, where is these undos saving itself? If you think about it, to undo something means that you have that thing that you're redoing is never actually deleted. So since it was never deleted, it has to save itself somewhere. And then in order to save itself and recall it on the fly, when you say, hey, if you messed up, if you have to bring it back, that does take a lot out of the system. And, you know, just to catch all that information, bring it to itself, and then, you know, store it and restore it. So by just dropping this to a more respectable number, I say even 30, maybe even 20. To be honest, if you have to undo more than 20 times, you just did something crazy, and you should probably just scrap or just hope for an autosave, because anything past 20 undos, you should just need an autosave to save you. But that's another tip to help get you out of that. And another great tip is hardware multi-routing. So in the event that you open up, say Contact is the perfect one, because that's what I'm gonna actually use. So say you're using Contact and you go in, you're like, all right, we're gonna open up Contact, an instance of Contact, and you have that. But normally you will do either mono or stereo. By going by a multi-out unit, you then change the way Contact is being used, from instead of just being like a standalone, and you could do like a batch grouping. You know, it's kind of crazy and janky, but with the 16 out with the 16 out selection on Contact, you now go from assigning it to work like it's a MIDI keyboard. So just like how my motif has 16 channels of information, it's the same thing with the Contact. You just have to set that up. This is not the video for that, and I apologize, guys. This is just a video for, like, you know, quick ways to get this going. But if you need me to make videos on anything, just let me know. All right. And another thing too, guys, this works best in like MIDI situations. I apologize, I don't have any MIDI data, but say you're working with MIDI. So we're going to put this on the software instrument track, and this is a MIDI file. Just pretend with me. So if this is MIDI, and it's MIDI from Contact at that, and we're using a very big patch, well, I don't know, just something crazy that's a lot of, you know, RAM and CPU intensive or whatever the case. So instead of just having that keep playing back the MIDI information, which is going to keep taking CPU data, RAM from your computer and your session, just to make sure it processes that one patch on that sample track, you go right click, bounce in place, and convert this into audio. So boom, sang, zoom. So it's going to bounce that. It's going to take that file, boom, which is already an audio file, but in the event that it wasn't, it'll be a MIDI file, and it's going to take it and bounce it into place. So that's a cool thing right there. Especially when you're working with big patches in Contact, I could definitely see how that could help. These last few is kind of like, you know, obvious, not so obvious, but, you know, they help, and they help more than people would think. So the next one, to go to Preferences and go to Audio. This is a pretty simple one. Increase your audio buffer. I wouldn't recommend going past 256. 512 is what they just default me at every time I open Logic. But like I said, the higher, as far as, if I'm quoting this correctly, you'd want a very low buffer during recording and a high one during playback, during mixing. And the last tip, which I know for a fact that works because I personally I went ahead and did it myself. If you saw my 2017 home studio tour, I spent a little bit of time highlighting my server and how I put all my hard drives inside my server, inside my Mac Pro, my 2001 Mac Pro. So that's become a lifesaver for me because if you read the Logic websites or any most professional workplaces, they have a drive dedicated for their sessions and their sounds. Because I know most producers may be saving, working straight off the hard drive in their computer. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't feel ashamed. But if you want to increase your workflow, it'll be best for you to have a drive dedicated just for your drum sounds. So if you're using drum sounds, your samples, whatever the case is, you have one drive just dedicated for that, and then have another drive just dedicated for your sessions. Because now if you see what you're doing, you have one drive to read and the other drive to write. So getting a drive for your samples, instead of having it saved on your main hard drive, it'll save us so much time because instead of your computer reading from the drive for your samples and then writing your session to the same drive while it loads the application on that same drive, it'll be loading samples from your external drive, then writing the session you're creating to another external drive while the drive inside your computer is only responsible for hosting the application. Totally a lifesaver. And then to even beef that up some more, get faster drives. So if you have an individual drive for your sounds and for your sessions, it wouldn't hurt to go from USB 2 to USB 3 if your computer's capable of it, or even upgrading the drives inside there to a SSD. Granted, you'll be at the mercy of the USB connection, but at the same time, the faster speeds that's in there will definitely play a bigger advantage to the way your workflow is. Your samples will load faster. The overall CPU strain will go down by at least 10 to 15%. It depends on your situation, because I know for a fact that with my server and with the sessions I load now, I don't get a spike past 10 to 20%. So it's very beneficial for me when I work. But this is just a quick tip video of just certain things you could do to help improve your overall workflow, because I'm going to be honest, I work off a 2008 and 2009 MacBook, I believe. You know, when I'm around the house, that's not my main workstation. So when I want to be mobile, that's what I'll be using. But the point is, they're not really as beefy as my workstations. So to get them to, you know, play or at least pretend like they could play or keep up with the play that the workstation could handle, these are the tips that I use. And I think it'd be great for me to recommend them out to the people out there that subscribe or produce the same way I do. So if you found this video informative or helpful, please just let me know. Give it 1,000 likes or help get it to 1,000 likes, because we want this to be at the top of the list. Drop a comment below and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And